Hey guys, Mark with Think Insurance, and today we're going to talk about why is insurance important? To understand that answer to that question, there's a lot involved. So let's kind of go back to when insurance even really existed. I mean, in all honesty, what's the point of insurance? What's the whole piece of it, right? Insurance is sharing risk. When you have something of value and you can't really afford to replace it, or you don't think you should, you want to kind of spend that risk somewhere else. So you want to pay money to somebody or a company that will take that risk on and say, great, give me $100 a month or whatever the price is, and we'll insure that item for the full value or this agreed upon value if there is a loss at the time of the loss. For example, easiest way to think about it is a cell phone. So if you have a cell phone and it's a $100 cell phone, and I insure it for $10 a month for a $100 cell phone, kind of a ripoff, but let's just use that example. So I'm insuring the cell phone for $10 a month, and if something happens to it in that next month, we'll just say it's $1 a month because that seems too high. So it's $1 a month to insure the cell phone, and if it breaks, it cracks, whatever the situation is, as long as I don't catch you throwing it in the water or purposely losing it, things like that, you're going to get that $100 paid to you at the time of that loss. If the cell phone's worth less at the time, then you're going to get less money at the time. So that's kind of the history or the what insurance is. Now let's go back to the history. The Lloyd's of London is really where it was insurance. That's the title of it. That's what it was. It's the intent. So it's more so when there were ships with tea and cargo and all that stuff, and then the pirates would come and raid them, then they would lose everything. They lose their livelihood, they lose all their money, they lose their reputation. So these insurance companies, the Lloyd's of London, they would insure boats for amounts of loss. So if they did get raided by a pirate, they didn't lose the booty or the whole thing. They didn't lose out on that whole piece. So that's really where insurance started. So you kind of understand really what it does in a short weird sample of a cell phone. Also where it kind of came from, and then let's dig into why it's important. For them, it's pretty obvious. Lloyd's of London back in the day, you had a ship that was, let's just use today's money. A ship is worth $500,000. We've got a nice ship, we've got enough cargo, we've got crew members' lives, we've got all sorts of stuff. There's the liability, there's that physical ship, there's the products on the ship, and then there's accidental loss in case like a lightning bolt hit the pole and fried the whole thing and we sank. So there's all sorts of situations. There's different pieces of that policy. The important piece to me as a businessman is I don't want to lose that $500,000 just taking one trip to make $30,000 on a cargo run. Right? Let's assume that I'm getting paid $30,000 to take this ship and drop these products off. And I'll get into further how it pertains to consumers as well. I'm going to insure that boat for the amount I'm going to pay, let's say $1,000 or $2,000 for that trip to ensure that I don't lose my $500,000 livelihood. That's really the kind of explains itself why it's important, but there's a lot more to that because there's all sorts of products in insurance. You've got life insurance, you've got health insurance, you've got car insurance, which I get it. Put them in the comments. I'm okay with it. It kind of sucks that you have to carry it. So that's one of those situations where you don't get to choose it, right? You've got home insurance. Not mandatory if you don't have a loan on it. If you're choosing to get a loan, that's on you. That means you're going to have insurance, right? They have to protect their asset. So you've got all sorts of types of insurance, and there's different ways that they all benefit you. The biggest thing overall, which is the umbrella insurance or the encompassing insurance policy, that's kind of a liability piece, is that you have coverage for losses. So in the event that a catastrophic event comes up or something happens to your family, something happens to you, you do something incorrect, you want to have enough coverage to protect your livelihood in those events. Well, I only have a cheap car. Why would I need to have the highest insurance? Well, let's look at your income. Let's look at your retirement money. Let's look at all sorts of ways that somebody could go in and go after you for any liability. That's where insurance starts to pay off, is when you have a liability policy. Let's use this as an example. I'm driving down the road. I'm in my 97 Chevy Malibu. By the way, I have a crappy 97 Chevy Malibu. That's what I drive all the time. Love it, hate it. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. It's only got 80,000 miles, side piece. So I'm driving in my 80,000 mile Chevy Malibu that I got from grandma, and I'm having a good old time, right? And I need to change the station on my radio. And I'm do. Okay, all right, I've got the hip hop going, we're jamming, bam, I hit somebody. I didn't realize when I was pushing the buttons that there was somebody there. And that person now has back pain, and they now have this. Now I'm in Michigan, so it's a little bit different, but assuming in other states, the medical, let's assume they opted out of any medical option, thought they had it or didn't have it, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. They've got some medical bills, ends up being $800,000. They end up having a surgery because it pinched a nerve and that nerve got stuck and doctor stuff, blah, 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 blah. And that happened, right? So now I'm liable for that repair to their body, right? And their car. I've got the insurance for their car because I've carried a liability policy, a property damage coverage. But now my liability, let's just say it maxes out at $100,000. So my insurance is going to pay that $100,000, and I'm paying a cheap bill. I'm paying $27 a month, $28, whatever the price is. I'm paying a lot more in Michigan, but let's say it's $27 a month. I'm paying that bill, and that happens. So now I'm covered for $100,000. There's still a $700,000 deficit between the damage that I've caused and the amount that my insurance covered. So now I've got a huge gap of coverage or liability that is going to fall on me. And there's nobody to protect me at that point when I don't have the right coverages. So now that's going to happen regardless. So if I don't have that umbrella, which is usually $1 million, I'm pretty much screwed. And that's going to fall on me. So that's where insurance starts to play a part. If I just cheap out and buy the cheapest thing I can find, great, right? That's your choice. But that's the risk that you take. It's really good to understand and maybe talk to an agent. If you guys want quotes, I'll put them in the link below. But if you talk to your agent or some agent or my agents, link below, and fill out a quote, you're going to get quotes from multiple companies. On top of that, if you're working with a specific agent, then they're going to be able to give you an idea, okay, well, in our area, our average claim is X, Y, and Z. You know that medical doesn't go over $250,000 98% of the time. So if you do injure someone, there's a really good chance that you're covered as long as you do $250,000. Great. Helps me out a lot. Appreciate it. I'm covered correctly. By the way, you may own a house, you have some ATVs, you've got this, and that. Not worried about the ATVs as much. Yeah, there's a little coverage here and there, but you really should have an umbrella policy. That's where that advice starts to play a factor. And these are the reasons why insurance is important, because it gives you the ability to protect yourself, your livelihood, your future income. It's a safety net, right? So if something happens that you couldn't control, I wasn't a bad person by changing the radio station. It's every day, every person. Right? Every day, bro. It's what happens. It's our lives. We're busy. We're always on the cell phone. We hope we don't get a ticket for it, but if we did, I can almost guarantee you will pull your cell phone out the following day. Just hide it down a little bit further. That's just the part of life. And so when we're liable for that, by the way, don't do that. It is bad. But who plans on that, right? Who plans on hitting somebody to the point where they're dead? Right? There's no control over that. Now, if they're paralyzed, that's a different story, right? They're not dead, they're breathing, they're alive. They can come after you, or their family will come after you. Now we're talking money. We're not talking go to jail for 10 years, 30 years, whatever the case is. We're talking financial ruin, because you could ruin your financial planning, your whole future based on what you have. And that's the point of where insurance plays a big factor. I know I need it. I'm not a millionaire today. I'm driving a 97 Honda, or not Honda, Chevy Malibu, right? I'm driving a POS, but I know that I have an income revenue stream that I'm working towards, and I have a plan for my life. And I'm not going to upset that tomorrow for something I did today. So I'm going to have enough insurance to protect myself in those events. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. This is the explanation of why insurance is important. Leave me in a comment below, why do you think insurance is important? I'll see you in the next one.